Hello and welcome to this week's vlog from Maddisons. Well, last week I started with looking for your plot. Let's now assume that you found your plot and you don't know whether to repair or replace. It's a common dilemma that affects many people. Obviously buying a plot is hugely expensive, and if you've got an existing structure there, one of the first things that you need to consider is whether the road will take a big new property. If you've paid £500,000 for your plot and you're looking at £500,000 to build a new one, will that road take £1 million cost? The reality is you could chuck a couple of £100,000 at that property and make quite a difference. Envelope it, wrap it, change the roof line, change windows, and it would look quite different. So it might be a more cost-effective way simply to replace. But one thing that leads on to is it might also be very unknown on the cost to replace. If you are knocking down a property, the builder will be able to give you a relatively certain idea of what it's going to cost. They can give you a fixed price. That's very difficult with a renovation. They're not quite sure what's going to be there. They're not sure what they might uncover. So until they get into the guts of it, they're not going to know. And that also leads me on to the cost, 20% off when you replace a building. It's 0 rated for VAT, so that can be a real advantage. Do you go to the full hog of replacing, knowing that you'll get all that VAT back? But look at what's there already. If you've got a real dream of what your house is going to want to be like, can you work with what's there? Can you make it exactly what you would want? Many people want to self-build simply because they want to design their dream home. And if you're not going to achieve that from the existing structure, it could be money just wasted. You need to also assess all those existing foundations. Was the property built pre-building regulations? It might well be if it's a dodgy property on a lovely plot, in which case you're not sure what your foundations are going to be like. Will you be able to go up a level? You won't know until you start to do more investigative work. One other thing to also consider, emotions. It might have been one of your family house. It might have belonged to your parents. It might have been somewhere you've lived for many years and you've grown attached to it. And when the wrecking ball arrives, that can feel quite strange. You might decide to try and work with it, therefore, in view of that. And the other thing on the emotions, well, of course, if you knock down, you are going to have to move out. There is no way you can live in that property while the work is going on, whereas if you are renovating or replacing, you might well be able to. So lots of reasons there as to why you might want to renovate rather than replace. But of course, one of the other big advantages of replacing is it can just happen a lot quicker. There are lots of new timber frame construction kits. They can go up super fast. Potton, Hoof House, Scandia, they all do lovely timber framed houses. Many of them will actually include the design within the cost. So you save on architects' fees if you go to one of those self-build constructors. They will cover all the design costs for you, get the planning permission, so it can save you quite a bit of money there. And of course, a final thing on money is, of course, demolition costs. Knocking down a property can be expensive. Disposing of it can be expensive, but not as expensive as you might think. £5,000 to £15,000 is the typical cost to demolish an existing property. Remember, you can work with the existing foundations. To get that VAT back, you have to knock it all down to ground level, but you can then work with the foundations. If you can do that, it could save yourself quite a lot on demolition. So I hope that's inspired you. We don't build enough homes in this country. Did you know that 60% of people, when asked, that they would love to design or build their own home, but only 7% in the UK do it, compared to 40% across the rest of the country? And I think that's because it's just perceived as too expensive and plots are too difficult to get hold of. So hopefully that's given you some clues. When you find your perfect plot, do you knock down or replace? And I'm very happy to knock down or repair. I'm very happy to talk to anyone about it in more detail. One thing to be careful of, though, a note of woe in the news this week, a tree preservation order situation. So in Swansea, in Wales, a developer cut down a 176-year-old 90-foot redwood cedar tree, believed to be the oldest plant in the UK. He was fined £300,000 for doing that. The magistrate and the judge felt that he did it to make way for 80 new homes. He said it was an accident. Who knows? All we do know is it was a very costly mistake either way. So do be aware of that. If you live in a conservation area, all your trees will be deemed to have a tree preservation order on them. You'll have to get council approval. And of course, you might have specific TPOs on plots in your land. Next week, I'm going to look at valuing a plot. You find a plot, what's it worth if it hasn't got a property on it? So I hope that helps. But this weekend, head off to all those lovely Christmas fairs. Christmas is definitely a calling. The Calverley ice skating rink is back and they're doing some curling this year as well. And there's lots of Christmas fairs here at the Pantiles, 1 Warwick Park, Manor Road in Rust Hall. All the proceeds of that go to Hospice in the Weald. And of course, the Wealden Times, their Christmas Spectacular Fair. It's absolutely stunning, goes over 3 days and well worth a visit if you've never been before. We hope you like, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.